Doing
Hey, what's up, Ryan? How are you?
good, Joey. How you doing, man?
Good. Hey, I just want to, it's been a couple weeks of spring ball. What's your assessment of what you guys have over there on the defensive side?
I'm really pleased with where we're at right now. Obviously, we've got a long ways to go, but I think we're right where we need to be. Guys have been doing exactly what we asked them to do. You see improvement, every practice. The mistakes that were made from the previous practice or previous day that were corrected, and film sessions are being corrected out on the field as well. So they're competing, they're having fun. They've got good energy right now. I feel like our chemistry is where it should be at this point. And we've, as a staff, I think our guys have done a good job of implementing schemes and progressing with the install at a good pace. It's obviously you want to throw everything at them, but Coach Bielema's to his point is it's not a let's throw out things on the wall and see what sticks. It's let's get good at our fundamentals and our base schemes, and then when they're ready, they'll let us know and we can move forward. So we're starting to see the little errors decrease every practice, and as they decrease, we keep adding schemes and scenarios and situations to be aware of, and I'm very pleased and proud of where they're at right now.
I think Brett's talked about, like, offensively they work first and second downs, and now they're starting to get third. Do you guys have kind of an order of operations for your install that we want to get?
It's the same. Yeah, it's what we obviously defensive football is reacting to the offense, so that is a team install. We do early downs at the start of it, and we've sprinkled in some third down scenarios this past week. And so with that, you get into some third down calls, third down schemes. So that's universal within the program.
Thanks, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Talon Lindsay and his getting the scholarship yesterday. He obviously has a pretty special story as one of his many coaches, I guess. What was that kind of like for you to see a kid with all the adversity he's gone through be rewarded with something like that?
Taylor's he's a hard-working kid, man. He does it. Every rep he takes is 1,000 miles an hour, and obviously you love to see people's hard work be rewarded, and for not only him but for the those three other guys. Just ultra happy for him. Obviously, you don't know the kind of impact it has, for them financially, but it's also your spirits. It's being rewarded for your hard work, and those guys work hard. There's no doubt about it. So hats off to Coach B for seeing that and recognizing it and rewarding them with scholarship.
And then I wanted to focus on the safety group a little bit as well. Obviously, you're kind of handcuffed a little bit depth-wise with everything that you've been dealt with. But what have you seen out of the safeties in particular, especially with a guy like Prather Hudson, who you've added through the portal?
Just their willingness to learn and work. Those guys are hanging on every word that any of the coaches say. You're seeing consistency with alignments, with calls, with checks. Then you're seeing production when we get into 11-on-11 situations. So really enjoy that group. I always preach to them that you guys got to be the quarterback, the defense. And so their attitude in the film room is that it's even keel. It's professional. It's competitive. And it's also encouraging. We have a pretty versatile room. We're playing with guys at different positions, and they're doing a good job of understanding concepts. So I'm happy with where they're at. Like I said, we got a long way to go still, but we're right where we need to be.
And if I could get one more, I know you said you have a long way to go, and I'm sure that's the same thing with the outside linebackers, considering those guys are learning basically an entirely new defensive scheme and as long as a new position as well. What have you seen out of those 3-4 major guys in that room?
Man, I'll tell you what, Owen Carney and Isaiah Gay, I'm happy as all can get out that they're here. They've had a great 8 practices. They've grown as leaders. They're ultra productive. Talk about versatile athletes, strong, physical, fast, and it feels like they're having fun within the scheme. So really happy with those guys, and then the guys behind them are doing a great job too. So we're trying to develop depth as the defense in our totality on our side of the ball. And the outside linebacker position is a reflection of that depth, in my opinion.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask about the difficulty of an install like this when you're missing so many linebackers. So you have Hansen and Barnes and Tolson and Cooper all, at least not on the practice field. I'm guessing you can involve them in film study and such, but how difficult is it when you have 4 guys out like that for the spring?
It's obviously you feel for those guys. It's for us, like we're a new staff, so we don't know any different. You know what I mean? And guys like Alex McCarron are doing a great job, which has awarded him a scholarship. But we do have periods of practice that we call them alignment, shift, trade, motion periods, where it's just one step. And so those guys that you mentioned that aren't getting those live reps, they can actually get out there and line up and get a check and make a call and make sure that they're in the proper alignment, in that linebacker world. So they're still getting reps, and then we give them a script out of practice, so they're taking mental reps. I know Coach Boo's done a great job with those guys in the film room. But it's football, man. So you never know when your number's going to get called, and so I think the guys that are out there right now have done a great job of not letting that bother them and picking up whatever, like I said, we're new, so it's not like we have seen those guys live, that aren't in there. We set a standard of how we want defense to be played and with what technique and with what verbiage and what kind of communication, and guys that are in there are doing that. So they're setting a good example for the guys that aren't. So it'll be fun in the fall camp when everybody's healthy. You get to go compete and see exactly what we got out of that room in its totality.
I know when there's a coaching change, there's always coming out of the spring maybe a name or two of a younger guy that didn't play much under the old coach and really caught the eye of the new coaches, the new coordinators, anything else. Are there any player names you can give us on your defense? Guys who maybe have surprised you a little bit. There wasn't much film on them when you were watching over the winter, but get them out on the practice field and they're surprising you with what they've got.
I don't know if they're surprised is the word, just because, like I said, I wasn't here, man. So it's not, I didn't know these guys and who they were as players. I studied each individual. We as a staff studied each individual. So, what you think you saw from a eval standpoint is kind of what you're seeing on Saturday, or not on Saturday, but throughout spring ball. And so I don't know if surprise is I haven't really been surprised because I didn't have any expectations. You know what I mean? The goal is just to get better every day, and those guys are doing that. And so that's been the focal point. So it's kind of hard to be surprised without prior expectations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
Hey, Ryan, good to see you. I know you just mentioned Alec McCarron being a guy who stepped up in that linebacker room. Are there any other guys who really stood out to you? I wanted to kind of build off that question that was asked about, some of your key linebackers being out for right now. Are there any other guys in that room who have especially stood out so far?
No, really, man, like those guys are all doing a great job. You talk about Alex McCarron, you got CJ, the transfer from North Carolina State. He's been doing an outstanding job. Sean Coughlin, really, like there hasn't been a drop off between who's been in and who's been out. And so, I've been pleased with that group, regardless of how thin it might be. Isaac Darkangelo is another guy who's really stood out and been explosive. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody too, but those guys are, they're doing a really good job of being physical and playing downhill, but also understanding the scheme and understanding what we're trying to get from them from a run fit standpoint and a communication standpoint in the pass game. So Coach Boo's done a hell of a job with that group throughout the course of the spring so far.
And given that we're about halfway through spring ball at this point, as far as practices are concerned anyway, I know you're still focused on installing your defense, of course, but do you have any other kind of goals or missions you've set out for the second half of spring ball as we lead toward this final spring game?
Well, just to keep getting better, Coach preaches about stacking days, and that's how you reach your end goal. Is you focus on the process, and you embrace the journey, embrace the grind of it. And so that's the goal right now. Is just continue to improve. We'll get into some different scenarios in situational football to enhance IQ and awareness. But every practice, just keep getting better at your fundamentals. Keep understanding what we're trying to get done from a concept standpoint, and keep competing to try to earn playing time when we get to the fall.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, I wanted to quickly ask, I know at least for the time being, Marquez has switched over to offense. And what do you kind of see out of the rest of your cornerbacks that allow for that kind of move? And what kind of confidence do you have in that group, and what are they bringing to the table so far?
Yeah, Coach Henry's done a great job with those guys. Obviously Tony Adams is Tony Adams, and he's consistent. He's got great feet. He's great at the line of scrimmage. And then Spoon is the energy of that group. Ultra competitive. He's consistent, and he's up here all the time. Really love him as a you gotta have that kind of mindset at corner. You don't care if he gets beat. He's gonna tell you. He's gonna talk to you. He's gonna line up and go compete the next play. So he's everything you want from neck up as a corner. You know what I mean? And then he's got the physical tool set to be a really good player. So I'm happy with him. And then the rest of those guys are doing a great job too. You talk about Taylor Letzi and what he's done to earn a scholarship. And we've got Kendall Smith has done a really good job too with that second group, and is improving every day. So like I said, Coach Henry's done a good job with those guys, and those guys have done a good job of being coachable and going out and competing every practice.
And if I could zoom in on one more guy specifically, Johnny Newton was a guy, he's literally played running back in high school, comes here, makes a pretty good impact as a true freshman. What kind of growth do you see out of him? How's he picking up with everything?
He's doing a really good job too, man. I can't dive into exactly what we're doing schematically, but he's been able to grasp concepts and play some different positions, and he's physical. He moves laterally really well. He can get vertical really well, and he is steady Eddie. Like, he is consistent with his approach, with the way he studies, with the effort he brings at practice. So I'm glad he's on our team.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Jordan.
Hey, Coach.
How you guys doing?
Good, Coach. Thanks for doing this. Last time you spoke with us, you mentioned trying to get a little bit more out of Brandon vocally, more leadership capabilities out of him through a couple of weeks through practice. How's that going? How's that process going for you guys?
Yeah, you know what? It's been going well. Brandon's been making an effort to really kind of just change himself a little bit on how he does things vocally and outwardly right there. And we're making some gradual steps there, and nothing happens overnight, but he appreciates the fact, the way I brought it up to him and what I saw from the outside looking in, and he's made some strides there. We got a little ways to go, but we got time.
And I wanted to follow up in the very short amount of time that we've had to be able to watch you and you work with the quarterbacks. A regular message I feel like I've heard you say to Isaiah Williams is getting on top of the football. What exactly does that mean, and how much is that helping him, I guess, with his accuracy or even his arm strength too a little bit, I guess?
Well, at times what Isaiah won't do is he'll get under the ball a little bit instead of getting on top of the football as he's releasing it. He gets under it a little bit as he's throwing it. And what happens when you do that, if you don't get on top of the football and get it to release off that outside edge of that pointer finger and get on top of it, you'll see the ball take off on him a little bit, and the nose will fly up when he's throwing the football. And so that's his misses, just like in the golf game, if the guy's a slicer, that's his miss. And so when Isaiah doesn't get on top of the ball, that's where his ball goes. And the worst thing you can do as a quarterback is have a ball take off on you. So We've been working hard on it. He had some really good throws in practice yesterday where he's really worked on it, hit a ball down the sideline, got the nose to turn over really nice. So he's working on it. It's taken, that you can't do that overnight either, but that's his miss, and that's where he's got to work on in his throwing motion.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, I wanted to continue with that thought of, you seem as a quarterback's coach kind of a guy, I've heard you talk about that several times, like what the ball looks like 30 yards down the field, what type of throw. How do you teach those mechanics to your quarterbacks of this is this kind of throw, this is that kind of throw? Is it just physical? Is it grip? Is it everything? How do you go about doing that?
Well, I mean, a lot of high school coaches will ask me, they'll come in and say, hey, I got this quarterback I'm going to be playing, and he's an athlete, but he doesn't throw the ball very well. What drills do you have and all this for teaching quarterbacks how to throw the ball? And I said, guys, I don't have any. I said, I recruit guys that can throw the ball well. And so I came on to this staff, and I've got the quarterbacks that I have, and Isaiah can throw the ball well. He just has a little bit of a miss and a flaw when he gets under it right there, and he's really got to lock in. I've had quarterbacks that throw the ball naturally exactly the way you want them to every single time. And, you look at the Packers quarterback, I mean, it doesn't matter where his feet are or whatever. He throws the ball perfect every time. He's just, he's that good at it. But, Isaiah's got a little bit of a flaw we're working on. Matt Robinson's got an overstride and a little bit of a long motion we're kind of working on. But, there's things you can work on there, but there's also certain people throw the ball better than other people. And, they came out and God touched them on the shoulder and they were able to throw the ball pretty well. So, I'm trying to do everything I can to tighten these guys up in any of their flaws that they have. And they're not huge ones, but I think we're working on some stuff and they're getting better.
How do you weigh that personally, against a player who's maybe a gamer? There have been college situations where the fourth string kid just isn't throwing it well in practice, but he gets out there in the game and he's making every decision correctly, and he just, understands the flow and everything else. Where he might not have the greatest mechanics, he can lead the offense better. How do you personally weigh that?
Well, all that matters is moving the brown ball down the field and getting in the end zone, really. I mean, that's what matters. And that's what I believe in. And I'm going to do everything I can to help them with their individual trade in throwing the football. But I tell them all the time, I love everybody in my room, but whoever makes that brown ball go down the field the best without turning it over and gets in the end zone the most, they're going to be the quarterback on Saturday, for Illinois. So that's everything, to be honest with you. It's a great question. I'm always working, I'd love to have a quarterback that's got the best release in the world, the quickest release, the biggest arm strength, can run the fastest. You want all that. But what you need is somebody that runs your offense and gets the ball down the field and puts it in the end zone.
And one last question: the fans are always wanting names to come out of spring practice. Who's surprising, who's put on the weight, who is, surprised the new coaches and making a press for the first string, all that kind of thing. Can you give me any names that have surprised you this spring? Anybody who's kind of sticking out on the offense that has really shown up and accelerated the spring?
I mean, we've had a lot of guys that have showed up, and I guess it's hard for me to say someone's surprised me just because I haven't been here. But at the quarterback position, Brandon and Isaiah have both practiced really well. They've taken a lot of snaps with the ones, and they both keep getting better every day. Sure, they have some mistakes, but they're learning from them and getting better. I'm very impressed with Donnie at the wide receiver position. He's made a bunch of plays out there. We've moved him around a little bit. Both of our tight ends have done a great job moving them kind of all over the place. They're making plays. We've got 3 running backs. They're all making plays in there right now. Excited about all 3 of them. And then the offensive line, we've kind of moved some guys in and out here and there. But, usually when we go back and look at the film, the guys that have went with that first group, I mean, we've been pretty happy with where they're at right now. And we still got a long ways to go, but we got a lot of time before we play that first Saturday against Nebraska. But very happy with where we're at after 8 practices.
Thanks.
Hey, Tony, good to see you. You actually kind of led into one of my questions. Brett Bielema has had pretty rave reviews about the 3 kind of, I guess, main key running backs so far, the Chases and then Reggie Love. I mean, have you seen any of one of those guys kind of separate themselves from the other in any way? Or how do you, I guess, compare them at this point, if that's a fair assessment?
I mean, if I was going to sit there and say right now, I think we got 3 running backs that we can go out and win Big Ten games with. And that's what matters. I think at times they all do something a little bit different, better. And at times they all do something a little bit, bad and make some mistakes and that kind of stuff. But they're learning too. But the key thing is to have guys back there that you got a running back that you say, hey, we can go win Big Ten football games with this running back. And I think we're going to have 3 of them. And anytime you got 3 backs that you could say that about in this league, you're doing pretty good. And you'd like to add a 4th as soon as you can, because, I've learned over the years that I was in this league, running backs, you can have 3 of them and feel pretty good. And in a heartbeat, you're down to 1. So got to have as many of those guys as you can that you can win with.
And then I guess you kind of alluded to my second question as well by mentioning the 2 tight ends. I know Brett Bielema has also expressed that he's pretty pleased with how Luke Ford has performed. What have been your assessments of him so far?
I love what Luke's doing. He's getting better every day. Daniel's doing an outstanding job. They kind of have a little bit different skill sets, but they also can do a lot of stuff similar. Tip does a great job for us in there right now. And we've got a bunch of bodies. We're practicing a bunch of people, but I would say those 3 guys have been the ones that have went probably with the ones the most and have probably done the best as far as the tight ends, and are having a good spring and improving immensely. Not only their route running and catching, but also at their blocking, which they're taking very serious.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Hey, Tony, I wanted to zoom in on Chase Brown. He had a good year last year and really has extended time, and it sounds like he's remade his body a little bit, added some weight. What have your been impressions of him specifically? How's he adapting to everything? What does he bring to that room?
Well, I think he brings experience playing here and playing in the Big Ten. And, Big Ten football experience at the running back position is huge. He's got confidence in himself. He's got confidence in his abilities. He's a very smart kid from a football standpoint, makes very few mistakes out there. And when he does make one, he learns from it and usually doesn't repeat it. Knows how to play the game, knows how to take care of the football, knows where he needs to be in pass protection. You can tell the kid's played a lot of football and is very confident in his ability. Has done an unbelievable job with his body. I don't know where it was, but I see him every day. I'm in there really early in the morning. I'm usually in there stretching because I got a bad back and trying to take care of my back. And the Brown brothers are in there early doing mobility and all that kind of stuff. He attacks it like a professional is what I would say. If I was going to say one thing about him, he attacks college football like he's a professional football player.
And obviously, I know this is your first year, but some of us have seen this offensive line room that struggled at times to field it too deep, and it looks like you have quite a few bodies over there in that room. What do you feel about the depth of that room and kind of how those guys are coming along?
You're talking about the offensive line, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we got a lot of bodies. There's no doubt. We're as deep as I've ever been in offensive line as far as bodies. But I think we've got a handful of guys that we feel like we could go out and play right now and win Big Ten games with. And what we got to do is turn that 5 to 6 guys into 8 to 9 to 10 guys. And that takes time. The 2 positions I think that take the longest to develop in college football is the quarterback and the offensive line. And sometimes the O-line might even take more than the quarterback. They just reps and experience means so much to that position.
And then if I could get one more, we saw Marquez move to wide receiver, at least for the time being. How big of an adjustment is that for a player? How long does it take to kind of get your feet under you and maybe feel a little more confident about what you can do with the position, and how is he doing with that?
Well, he's doing okay. It's tough because as soon as you come over there, it's like you're coming over and you're trying to learn a different language, because all of a sudden all this verbiage where you got to learn how to line up first. So you got to learn the formations, then you got the motions, then, okay, what am I supposed to try and do? Okay, how deep do I go on my routes? What happens in this coverage? There's a lot that goes into wide receiver play. So it's like you got a fire hose and it's just spraying at you and you're just trying to survive. So he's doing fine, but that takes time when you switch over. It's not the easiest thing.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it.
Yep.